Bases dropped on Soccer's morning show, Soccer Down Here. It's Tuesday Thoughts, and there's a lot to think about today on a couple of different fronts. And what I wanted to do this morning with John here, Jarrett there, obviously, we can talk a little bit about what happened last night and what is still ongoing in Cincinnati and Buffalo with Damar Hamlin. And there was a particular angle that I wanted to address this morning for opening kickoff. What I also wanted to do this morning was, since training camp is coming up just around the corner, Jarrett and I, in our previous conversations, have already given our predictions, kind of, sort of, and all of that for 2023. So we wanted to kind of get your predictions. Obviously, it's early predictions, things like that, when it comes to 2023. So we wanted to get your ideas early on, because with training camp being what it is, that we wanted to make sure that that everybody got in your predictions before it was time to get in your predictions. So any predictions that you have when it comes to 2023, that's what we wanted to get into this morning. We've talked about Eastern Conference and Western Conference. Niall, yeah, Thiago Almada's MLS MVP. That's the kind of stuff we're hunting for this morning, because we want to get all of these predictions in so we have them locked in place before training camp starts. And then, then you'd have to get your predictions and you'd have to put out an eraser. And so what we wanted to do this morning, 2023, way too early predictions since training camp hasn't started yet. And obviously, with Jarrett in the real world, hour number 2, we'll go through the news that we have of the day, get you ready for what's going on later today. And opening kickoff this morning, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. There's your QR code for those of you watching live on Twitch. And what you can do is use the code SoccerDownHere15. And thank you to everyone who has used the code SoccerDownHere15 so far. You get 15% off your purchase for everything that you do with Kickoff Coffee. They, in turn, take 10%, roll it over into the youth game. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. And I see that a lot of you have already started putting in predictions. Doesn't necessarily have to be specifically about Atlanta United. Can be Eastern Conference, can be Western Conference, can be Golden Boot, could be hot seat, whatever you think. It is a wide open discussion this morning when it comes to your thoughts, and we'll go over those things. So once again, way too early predictions, can be Atlanta United, can be MLS in general. Anything is on the board when it comes to way too early predictions. This is the show where we sit here, we lock everything in place, because once training camp starts, then you got to get out your pencil and your eraser and change what your thinking is. So get your predictions in. Doesn't have to be Atlanta United. I know that you got Atlanta United predictions, but that's what we'll do. So opening kickoff this morning, once again, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com, Kickoff Coffee CO, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And Jarrett, I wanted to bring you in this morning, and obviously, last night was a long night for the wrong reason. And I know that I was watching Monday Night Football, kind of got confused as to what the day was, considering the day was bowl games up until the fourth quarter of Penn State and Utah. And we hope that Mike Conti returns safely from his trip out west. But, you're watching a game, you turn away, then social media blows up. And with Damar Hamlin specifically, what I wanted to get into with you this morning was the masterclass in journalism that we saw, and also the empathy that we saw last night. Sympathy and empathy with friends and teammates and those of us who were watching from afar. It was a long night, and it still is a long day. And obviously news in the middle of the night that Damar Hamlin is in hospital, critical condition, but he's been sedated, and we're keeping an eye on things there. But what your initial thoughts from last night when it came to the handling of the situation and what we saw from friends and teammates when it came to DeMar Hamlin.
I mean, it was such a weird moment because, he's standing up and he drops. And the way everything unfolds, it unfolds very quickly, but it's one of those things where I feel like it unfolds pretty quickly in the grand scheme of things, but it feels like it's in slow motion.
Yeah.
I thought everyone handled it well. As far as the broadcasters go and the studio crew at ESPN, they got put into a really tough situation because you never get ready to call a game or run a studio show. And John, you know this, you've run the studio, you've been, running point on desk for God knows how long at this point.
Since the days of black and white television. Go ahead and say it.
But you do all of that work, and you don't ever expect to, you're never like getting ready thinking, man, gonna have to cover somebody possibly going into cardiac arrest today.
Yeah.
You just don't plan for it. But I thought they did a very good job. I thought I really liked the studio setup they did on ESPN for a while. I think it was Susie Colbert was spearheading it.
With
you get if you
after,
with Booger. Then you get the conversation. If you haven't seen it yet, you can go check the conversation with Ryan Clark and Scott Van Pelt. And Ryan Clark, who has not been in the same situation, but has been in a scary medical situation in the past when he was a player.
Yep.
There's a level of understanding there. Again, it's not the exact same, but he knows that feeling of what's going on, the fear of the unknown. I thought everybody handled it really well. Awesome that Zach Taylor and the rest of the coaching staff stepped in and saved the NFL from itself because, as we have seen so often, the NFL frequently has to be saved from itself because they are just for the large, unstoppable force that the NFL is, make some of the most inept decisions humanly possible for an organization that size. They were going to play after the ambulance left the field. If you weren't aware, they were planning to restart the game within 5 minutes, like a 5-minute warm up and go. And from some of the reporting that's been going around, Zach Taylor, the coach of the Bengals, walked across the field, talked to the
Sean McDermott, the head coach.
Talked to Sean McDermott. Yeah, thank you, and the Bills staff, and they all left the field. So good job, coaches, for protecting the league from itself, which is an occurrence that happens way too often for my liking.
Yeah.
But it's and look, I mean, you could go on social media last night. I could not find a player, past or present, who was on board with continuing to play that game. My issue aside, okay, take all the emotion of a guy had to be literally resuscitated on the field.
Yeah.
Take that out of it for a minute. Take all of that away, and what you're left with is go look at the clips of those guys on the sideline. They were wrecked. Turner and I were talking about it last night, and he mentioned, Stephon Diggs is trying to pump guys up. Like, yeah, you have to. Somebody has to. Because if the league is going to make you play it until they stepped in, which good job, again, by the coaches, players, whoever it might be, good job stepping in and telling the league to kick rocks. But if you're going to have to play again, you have to lock your mind in immediately because football is a very fast, violent collision sport. And if you are not locked in mentally, the odds of horrific injury grow exponentially if your mind is somewhere else on the playing field.
Yeah.
Like, you cannot afford that. When they've continued games after somebody's been, carted off with a neck injury before, it's always weird to me when they restart it because, like, I don't know how players and commentators have talked about it for years, like how players lock back in. I don't know how they do.
Yeah.
I don't know how you're expected to lock back in when someone you play with just got taken off the field and you don't know their status. And it might be in some of these guys' cases, it might be somebody who's a really good friend who they bonded with through training camp. Maybe through the draft process and through the combine process. Maybe they went and got lunch the day before. You don't know. it's a tough situation. I thought ESPN, for all of their faults, and ESPN has many of them in the way they've done things.
Yes, they do.
Over the years. I thought the people they had, and some of it might be dumb luck. It was good to have somebody like Scott Van Pelt there, who was doing that show at that time. Mm-hmm. Boger, I think Schefter was on the desk with Culver as well.
Yes.
I thought they did a really good job because it's such a tricky situation. You're not prepared for it, and you just have to go. And you don't get to think about it. You just have to go, and you have to talk about it, and you have to cover it. But you don't want to make a spectacle out of it, I guess. Mm-hmm. Where you don't want it to be where you don't want it to be speculation. You don't want it to be, hey, let's take a look at that again. Like you have the human conversations that come with it.
Yeah,
I thought for as much as we malign ESPN for some of the stuff they do, they deserve the credit last night for the way that their people handled it, and whoever was in charge for not changing the flow of it and just letting the sports journalists be sports journalists in that moment and be people in that moment. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, we talk about this. I beat this drum a lot on this show. I beat this drum a lot on soccer, but I beat this drum a lot on anything I'm on. I really beat it when Bobby Shuttleworth retired.
Yeah.
That at the end of the day, the athletes we see are actual human beings. They have feelings, they have emotions, they have quirks, they have anxieties, they have stuff that they work through. So it's tough sometimes to remember that, though. Ryan Clark talked about it. Next time you're, think about that sometimes. When you're getting real mad at a guy who drops a pass for your fantasy league, like, they're human beings. Yeah. Like it wears on them too. It's an important thing, like last night, though, to remember that at the end of the day, like, they're not robots. They might get beat up like robots. They are genetic marvels in a lot of cases to make it this far to play professionally. Like, some of these guys are just the most freakish human beings you've ever seen. Size, speed, quickness, all that, strength. But at the end of the day, they are still people. And they're going to have to process this, and I don't know how the league proceeds with this. Because, if you haven't muted Skip Bayless and you saw his stuff last night, yeah, I mean, but as far as the league is concerned, the league's going to want to get this played as soon as possible. It's not the most important thing right now. It's not really on anybody's mind right now. But for them, it's going to be, because that game has standing in the playoff picture. Now, I have no problem if each of those teams, players, coaches want to march down to Goodell's office and tell him no one cares right now. Because, I don't blame him for not caring right now. I wouldn't either until you get some updates here and we know what's going on. I hope they will consult with the teams about that, because, forcing them into a restart, I could absolutely see the NFL doing it. Because the NFL, again, for a league that big, for the league that, for a league that powerful, that is just basically an unstoppable force, for an entity that powerful, a business that powerful, they are some of the most inept people, I swear. And Turner also made the point last night, like, the official cancellation of the game, he was right. It takes time to do that. Now, when the players walked off, I think they made a statement about that. And the coaches walked off like they had made a statement, like, this game's not getting played. He was right, though, and it's an important point that, like, one of the reasons it takes so long to get the official announcement is there's a lot of coordination that goes on. Uh-huh. There's a lot of official coordination that has to be done before it's officially called off. That game was unofficially, I think, done the second they all walked off the field, and that's fine. Good on the players. Mm-hmm. Good on the coaching staff. Not good on the league because they wanted to start 5 minutes after the ambulance had left the field.
Yeah.
But then when their hand was forced, it takes time to get all the technical stuff done, to get all of the coordination to make it officially suspended.
Yeah. For the record, late night conference call with the league. NFL Executive VP of Football Operations, Troy Vincent. What was most important was that it wasn't about proceeding with the game. Frankly, that aspect never crossed my mind or their mind internally. We asked that referee Sean Smith communicate with both Taylor and Coach McDermott, getting the players together. Frankly, it was just about getting a pulse of where they were at that particular time. That's a poor choice of words by Troy Vincent.
Good God. Again, just cannot get out of it. An entity that is incapable of getting out of its own way. I swear to God.
Yeah. Vincent said there was not a discussion between him and Roger Goodell about a 5-minute period for players to get warmed up and that resuming play did not cross their minds. Union came out with a statement after that. But yeah, to your point, empathy was something that we saw last night in waves. And specifically from the journalistic standpoint, you saw folks who are pros at their craft, and you got to see, and we can do these things, we can be automatons, and I think that for the longest time in our business, we were supposed to be these automatons that didn't show emotion, and we're just supposed to, be somewhat robotic. And here's a fact, here's a fact, here's a fact. But I think that last night, that since we saw the emotion of not just on-air talent, but folks who are mothers, fathers, sons, and that you got to see those people in this terrifying situation acting as human beings. I think that that's something that, it was something that we didn't normally see. And I think that when you're in a situation like this, and the fact that it's okay to show empathy on the air, and Emilio Skip Bayless, you can go on his Twitter account, and he's, it was classless. But once again, that was just,
Skip's playing a character at this point, but he's kind of turned into that character, and to give him any more than 2 seconds notice is, at this point, your fault.
Yeah. So yeah, it's all over his Twitter account, and
if you choose to do that, that's on you. It doesn't make you a bad person for giving him the time of day. You just know what you're getting.
Yeah.
When you see him, he is playing a character that he has slowly morphed into. I think in more than just character sense, and it's not worth. It's not worth.
No.
Taking seriously, it's not worth dealing with. Again, you're not a bad person if you have him unblocked and you like to interact and like to see his stuff. Doesn't make you a bad person. Just know that he is just a circus performer at this point.
Yeah, it is. And that we got to see honest discussions. You mentioned the discussions with Scott Van Pelt and Ryan Clark. And it was, Ryan Clark, for those that don't know, Ryan, in his career, and I want to get the phraseology right.
He had sickle cell, didn't he?
It was sickle cell trait. Yeah, it was sickle cell trait that he was diagnosed with. And it was in his career. Okay, so 2007. At altitude, Ryan Clark has severe pain in his left side, had to be rushed to the hospital. He had a splenic infarction due to sickle cell trait, which he had suffered from since he was a child. Basically, a splenic infarction, that's fancy words. Blood flow supply to the spleen is compromised, leading to partial or complete infarction in the organ. It occurs when the artery or its branches are occluded by a blood clot. And so, high risk at altitudes, had to have his spleen and gallbladder removed, ending his season, losing 30 pounds. Then he returns to the Steelers in 2008. But after that, medically cleared to play in thin air in Denver, but the Steelers deactivated him for the 4 games they played in Denver for the remainder of Clark's career. So
it's a safety precaution at that point. And fun fact, because we've all seen this clip of the late great Demaryius Thomas, R.I.P. baby.
Yeah.
The 80-yard touchdown pass where that Tebow throws him, where Tim Tebow takes 25 years to wind up his throw, because Tebow had the longest throwing motion in recorded history.
It's true.
That long touchdown that he throws to Demaryius Thomas, Ryan Clark would have been the one in coverage as the safety, but he was not playing because of this. So It's like that one. That one always. One of my best friends is a big Steelers fan. That's from the area, and has mentioned that before. That, man, if Ryan Clark had been playing, maybe he brings him down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Not in the sense of he should have been playing, but I hate that he had that.
Yeah.
So his absence was noted on one of the biggest plays in Broncos history.
Yeah, and so that was the reference that Ryan Clark and Scott Van Pelt were talking about, where Ryan was in hospital, and he was wondering about his life, and teammates are coming to his bedside. So, it's a reminder that we have a lot invested in individuals who are investing their lives in a game, and that game means the world to them. And when we have a moment like we had last night, and the other thing that I wanted to bring up from a television perspective is that we haven't seen it in football. And I know that Nick's, you mentioned it. We had to go all the way back to 1971, and there was an individual by the name of Chuck Hughes, 28-year-old tight end wide receiver for the Detroit Lions. And in 1971, in a game against the Chicago Bears, he collapsed on the field at Tiger Stadium during the game and died of a heart attack on the field. So that was the other time in the that was the time in the National Football League where you had someone die on the field, basically. They tried to resuscitate him for about an hour. But back in 1971, Chuck Hughes died after collapsing while he was playing, and there was about a minute left in the game. And 55 minutes later, after attempts at resuscitation, Chuck Hughes passed. He was the only player. He's been the only player in National Football League history to die on the field of play. And so that was a reference that folks were trying to look up last night also, sadly.
Yeah, and Coco, we can have that conversation on the Discord all day long about Tim Tebow taking credit for I think it's like a 10-yard slant route. To be fair, about Tim Tebow throwing a slant that Demaryius Thomas just Julio Jones the hell out of Pittsburgh's defense for 80 yards. Ricky puts in the chat, and then this is a good one as well. Is Damar Hamlin has a toy drive.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's over $3 million now.
Yeah, $3.3 million this morning, and his initial goal was only $2,500.
Yeah. Again, Damar Hamlin's a second-year guy out of Pitt. And this is the thing, is like, we have to remember with football players, the average career is, I think, 3.5 years, 2.5 years.
Yeah.
These guys who play forever, they are very much outside of the average. They are blowing past the average length of an NFL career. Most careers are very short.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy's a second-year safety out of Pitt. I mean, he's doing like a lot of these guys do. And we talk about this in all sports. If you're working to that second contract, the I got paid and I'm good for life contract.
Yep.
The what Dansby Swanson just got contract. The what Grady Jarrett got contract. The what Kyle Pitts is going to get contract. Hopefully, as he is able to stay healthy. Everybody's working to that second contract. And you're just trying to do what you can until then. And you're trying to keep your head above water, because the jump from college to NFL is intense. We talk about it, and it's interesting because we talk about it in baseball about, like, guys don't jump from high school or college and go straight into Major League Baseball. Like, it takes an adjusting period. The game's different. The game is more refined, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Yeah,
it's sharper. It's more. It's more unforgiving. It's less forgiving.
Yeah, it's grown and matured in that way. Yeah.
If you've ever seen the movie Bull Durham, where Kevin Costner talks about, fastballs you can't even see, sliders that disappear, curveballs that fall off a table that look like fastballs, like baseball's that kind of sport. But football is too. Like, you think about, like, these guys who dominate in college football, they go to the NFL, and a lot of times, just another guy.
Mm-hmm.
Sammy Watkins was one of the most explosive freshmen I've ever seen in my life when he was at Clemson. He's just been a guy in the NFL who's bounced around team to team. He's had some good moments, but Noshawn Moreno was one of the most dominant running backs we saw in college.
Mm-hmm.
He played for a couple of years with Denver, and then it didn't stick. Leonard Fournette was a monster. He had 2 really good years in Jacksonville, then kind of fell out. Had a really good year 2 years ago in Tampa, and now is just kind of there. Like the jump is so extreme.
Yeah.
And we get it in soccer as well. I know we are technically a soccer show. We should get back to that at some point.
We will, yeah.
It's interesting though, even soccer, like that jump. We talk about that jump with the kids when we do the twos review.
Yeah.
That these guys are teenagers and getting to go out there and play and just trying to like keep their head above water is the thing. I think for Alan Carlson, for example, last year, there were times where early in the season last year when Alan Carlson would play, where I thought he looked like a guy who was just trying to keep up.
Yeah.
He was trying to keep his head above water. He was trying to be where he was supposed to be. Just trying to not get lost in the flow and to try and not look helpless. By the end of the season, he looked like a guy who came on the field with an intention and a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And it was awesome to see that growth, but it doesn't just happen overnight. And that whole, I think you get that trying to keep up with it and trying to keep your head above water for a lot of these guys who make that jump in the NFL. Like, Hamlin, second-year guy, he's probably finding his rhythm. He's, he's playing for a damn good defense in Buffalo and a team with big aspirations. Like it's not like you're playing on a scrub team. He's playing with a team that has Super Bowl aspirations, and he's got to meet those. He's got to perform week in and week out. And he's living his dream. I mean, he's second year. He's got a chance to possibly go to a Super Bowl this year. And now you're just wanting to get him squared up again. It sucks, man. Like, yeah, credit to the folks at ESPN for the way they handled it.
I mean, we've seen networks handle this in auto racing.
Yeah, and Emilio, yeah, I've seen that as well. We've seen that before. We actually had that happen. They had a similar thing happen in Georgia 15 years ago. They had a kid died in a Little League baseball game.
Yep.
Got hit with a pitch in the chest and went into arrhythmia and cardiac arrest and died. Yep. Same situation of, it's when it's something about the electric pulses through your body during your heart. I think it's the T waves. I don't know enough about cardiology to be clear on it. It's just, you hit it at a certain point and that's it. And that's what triggers it. But I mean, because I remember when that happened, like the outpouring was both for the parents and for the kid who was pitching, because it was it's kid pitch. You're pitching to each other, and the same thing last night with T. Higgins. T. Higgins left the stadium with his mom. Bunch of the Bills players apparently went over to talk to him. He went over to the hospital, but you're making a football play, and it's a term that we've used for so long. It's kind of like a joke. Like, did he make a football move? Yes, T. Higgins did. He made a football play that he made his entire career. John, it's funny. I went, you go back and see it, and it's hard to watch because you know what's coming when you see the hit.
Yeah.
But you go back and watch it, it'd have been irresponsible for him not to lower his shoulder, because then he'd have gotten destroyed.
Yeah.
T. Higgins
is trying not to get tackled.
Yeah, T. Higgins drops his shoulder, which you're taught to do, and to try and drive forward for extra yards, and catches him in the chest. And 999 times out of 1,000, it's fine. Probably a greater odds than that. And I do hope that, his mom was able to help, and that they're able to keep him in a good place mentally, because it's not even like he was a reckless kind of play. Like, no, they were playing football.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even like a reckless move that led to something. It was I don't want to get destroyed, because I can tell you, as someone who has been laid the hell out before, like, you get hit if you're not, prepping your body to get hit, you're going to have a bad day.
Mm-hmm. Commotio cordis is the medical term. And once again, doing the dives that we do, listening to cardiologists and things, it's that direct strike to the left chest wall over what they refer to as the cardiac silhouette. And basically, we've seen it in baseball more than anything, where you'll get that impact.
You see lacrosse a lot too. I believe they have to have AEDs on the sideline at lacrosse matches, especially high school lacrosse matches, because they take a lot of abuse. Mm-hmm. I believe they have to have one on sidelines because of the amount of hits to the chest.
Yeah. And so commotio cordis is what you're looking for. And and this is me doing a quick search. Initial rhythm is ventricular fibrillation, in which those within a defibrillator is used relatively early after the event. And to what the Soccer for Good OG says, AEDs save lives. Resuscitation, similar to that in resuscitation and other forms of cardiac death. And so that's what you're looking for. So commotio cordis is the actual terminology. That's the thought right now with what you're looking at with cardiac arrest involving Damar Hamlin. But yeah, motorsports has been, those on-air personalities have handled it in the past with Dan Weldon, with Greg Moore, with Dale Earnhardt Jr. But for football, it's an entirely different thing. And to see how it was handled last night by the professionals at ESPN, well done in an incredibly difficult situation. And Coco, that's another question about making AEDs mandatory across the board for high school. So, so that's another part of this. That was and obviously it's going to be in our thoughts for the next little while, but that was a rather elongated opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com, and you can follow along Kickoff Coffee CO on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And, our friends at Kickoff Coffee, use the code Soccer Down Here 15, get 15% off your anything that you do with Kickoff Coffee. They in turn take 10%. Roll it over into the youth game. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. And I want to thank all of you for kind of letting us go down that road this morning. Obviously, it's a topic that's larger than that sport, than this sport, than anything. And so I wanted to address it this morning because I know it was on a lot of folks' minds this morning when it came to what we're looking at with Damar Hamlin. Into soccer, into the remaining time that Jared has with us here this morning. Yesterday was Old Firm. And Jared, I kind of wanted to have you give a bit of an overarching explainer about Old Firm and I want to say it was Sharif who wanted and was looking for a comparison on this side of the Atlantic to what it means on that side of the Atlantic. And I think Sharif came up with North Carolina and Duke in old school basketball terms. But I said it was a little deeper than that because of the religious aspect to it with Catholics and Protestants. Break down Old Firm for those that may not know it to the depth that you do.
Okay, we're going to do this quickly because I know we have questions about predictions and whatnot, so we'll try to knock it out quick. We knocked it out last week as well. It's a lot. There's a lot of Catholic versus Protestant, loyalist versus Irish republicanism there. There's a lot of just we don't like blue or we don't like green. Call it Carolina and Duke, I think, is a little disservice to what Old Firm is.
Right.
Unfortunately, because of the amount of violence that has cropped up from it directly. Lot of suspensions and banishments being handed out a lot. You want something on this side of the Atlantic closer to it. It's somewhere between that. It's beyond the Iron Bowl, but it's somewhere between that, but not quite at, like River Boca, because no matter how you feel about your particular rivalry, they've never had to move a rivalry game across the Atlantic Ocean because the fans were out of pocket.
Yeah. So
River Boca gets to take that cake.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But there were a lot of national team players and American and Canadian national team players in that game yesterday. Like Tillman was there. Had some decent moments. Got twisted in a pretzel at one point.
Yep.
But
CCV and Alistair Johnston.
CCV has been a revelation at Celtic. I hope eventually he makes that move back south to somewhere where he's going to play consistently. I don't want him to leave, but I want him to go get paid, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no.
I hope he stays at Celtic for a long time. I imagine someone eventually is going to offer him a lot of money, and I hope he takes it. I hope he gets to go make tons of money and go play. I'm very happy to see him revitalize things at Celtic, and he's been a rock in the back because Carl Starfelt sure as hell hasn't. Morsians has been good. He's banged up, though. But yeah, then you had James Sands, who was... James Sands was kind of just a spectator during the second goal that Celtic scored that earned them the draw from Kyoko Furuhashi.
Mm-hmm.
Not great from James Sands. James Sands hasn't taken the steps forward that I hoped he had. Rangers playing the style they play hasn't helped it. Look, Rangers got 2 goals yesterday. One because they cashed in on a Lotto long ball and a really good finish from Ryan Kent. And then a penalty because Carl Starfelt was being an idiot. Again. Otherwise, like they like to go long. They're not one to build up very much, and James Sands just has a lot of defensive work to do, but he hasn't really taken the steps forward. I hoped he had. Alistair Johnston got to start for Celtic in his first his first matchup in his first Celtic match was an Old Firm match. I thought Johnson was fine. Juranovic having to play left back because Celtic is out of left backs and they don't trust Bernabei. This is the Argentine they picked up over the summer. I guess he just doesn't trust him with the ball at his feet. So you had Juranovic playing left back. He was not very good. Look, the way Celtic plays, they're going to dominate the ball in Scotland. That's just how it is. Even against Rangers, more often than not, they're going to have the ball. Up until Joe Hart completely lost his mind in like the 35th minute, that was one-way traffic in that game. That was at Ibrox.
Mm-hmm.
That was not great for Rangers, but Joe Hart losing his mind for a second gave them some energy to actually try and play. But he does. It's going to be a lot of getting forward, a lot of underlapping runs. Celtic loves to get their wingers out on the edge. Jota, the other Jota, and Lelabada when he's on. You have a number of wingers over there who are a lot of really good get wide 1v1. Have the left or right back, underlap to the edge of the box, that kind of thing. Jason Nick's talking about Alfredo Morales.
Yeah. Yes.
Alfredo Morales, who is now getting a little hefty.
He's in the super heavyweight division now.
Yeah, apparently one of the Celtic players was called him fat during the game. Alfredo Morales is a weird one, man, because he was, I guess, is very talented. He has bulked up, if we want to call it that.
Sure.
And he went from being much more mobile and svelte but also he was insanely strong for his size. He was called El Buffalo for a reason.
He's a chunk. He's a chunk.
Well, but he is now, but he wasn't.
No.
And now he just keeps getting bigger and bigger, and he's losing some of that mobility that really made him so dangerous. Because it was like, not a direct comparison, but think of like young Josie.
Okay.
Who was fast. But Josie was strong. Like, Josie would hold anyone off the ball without thinking twice. Morelos was that guy, and he's right now he's not. He's also a certifiable crazy person at times.
Yes, that's true.
He goes through really weird dry spells, and he just seems mentally like he is kind of out to lunch sometimes. Steven Gerrard got the most out of him, and it doesn't seem like anyone has consistently been able to get the most out of him since then. It's very frustrating, though, because he is talented.
Or out of Steven Gerrard.
It's a different situation. Steven Gerrard went full Will Muschamp. Steven Gerrard was kind of like the Liverpool coach in waiting, in the sense that Will Muschamp was the Texas coach in waiting.
Absolutely.
He went down to that Aston Villa job and just fumbled it worse than way worse than Will Muschamp fumbled. Like Will Muschamp got Florida to a top 10 finish that first year. I remember because they couldn't score, but they also were giving up like 9 points a game. It looked like a 1940s game, whatever Florida played. They didn't know how to score the football, but my God, they were going to make you suffer for 60 minutes.
Tremendous effort by the Florida Gators today, and
yeah, basically. But that's what Steven Gerrard kind of did, man. He kind of fumbled away that whole thing, and it's wild that it happened. Oh, Stevie G.
Yes.
But yeah, so the game carries a lot of tension, and unfortunately, yes, Alex, it is. Because again, Will Muschamp had Florida as a top 10 team that first year, which is more than Stevie G did in this year. It's top 10 in EPL doesn't equal top 10 in college football. These are different qualifiers here. Yeah, it's one of the biggest issues with the old firm is now you have people who get involved in it who don't have any, you don't have any affiliation. I have this issue with all rivalries. We don't have this affiliation of religious issues or something. It's like it's something you're taught. You're taught to hate. It's absolute nonsense bullshit that we do. Where we just teach, okay, you're supposed to hate that team. You're supposed to hate that guy. Difference between hating somebody and just cheering against them, because I know that's a difference. That's a difference that people have. That's a difference that people have. But man, it's some people take it way too far.
Yes. Yeah.
Some people take it way too far and take it personally instead of like, oh, you can say like, oh, I hate the Crimson Tide, but you're not going to absolutely like hate them in like a personal level.
Right.
It's going to be Saturday for a couple hours and Schadenfreude when they lose, that sort of thing. Yes, Airborne DJ John does do an old-time radio voice really well. It's because what he started, that's what he was using.
Yes.
When John was voicing the news from the front reels in the 1940s.
Yes.
When our boys were on the Western Shores.
Flash. You'd be amazed to see what happens.
Here big red ones landed behind lines.
Yes.
Making their way through France.
Here on the dunes, we get to see the advancement of those boys in the red, white, and blue. Yeah, exactly. That's an easy one, Tom. But yes, I've been in the business that long that my first impact was with Walter Winchell. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, but yeah, like it's this thing where like people are taught to, kids are taught to like, take that hate to a separate level, and it's really stupid because it still exists in the old firm, and doesn't make you a better fan or a better person if you're going to try and hit someone over the face with a bottle because they wore a different shirt. It's just so damn stupid. Whatever. Yes. Ultimately, Rangers fumble away the win. Celtic had the lead at halftime. They came out of the second half, looked like garbage. Rangers gets 2 quick goals. Celtic gets one late. It's huge. It's hugely bad for Rangers because they played really well. Celtic played really poorly, especially in the second half. They didn't generate enough. And they got a road draw out of it, despite not playing well, despite Rangers really getting up for that game. Rangers needed 3 points. It's still a 9-point gap. That draw kills Rangers more than it kills Celtic. So anyway,
it's their first draw of the year in 20 matches. They've given up 17 goals in those first 20 matches this year. 2 of them yesterday. So going into their 20th match, they'd only given up 19 goals in 15 matches. And Rangers, obviously, you said that they're 9 back. Then it's everybody else. Hearts, who's been on a roll, they're at 31 points. And Aberdeen, by the way, snapped a 4-game losing streak. They played their 20th match. They're at the top of the hashtag gaggle, as we have the split that we kind of have to keep an eye on. But that draw that they got yesterday was a goalless draw against Ross County, who's at the bottom of the table and is minus 18 in goal difference. Fun fact. Stephen Glass had 1 more point on the board through his first 20 matches.
I'm going to do the math in just a second if I can load the page to look at let me see. Okay. So Stephen Glass was fired February 13th. Okay, keep that in mind. February 13th.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to count the points to February 13th. This is last year.
Okay.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29.
Yeah.
He had 29 points at the time of his sacking. How many points does Aberdeen have right now?
26.
So here's the thing about it as well. Okay, so perception is key. At that point last year, when Stephen Glass had been sacked, they had just lost, I believe, to a second division team in a cup.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's right.
And I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back for a lot of people. They were further down the table because Scotland was a lot more like, it was weird. Like last year and this year has been, Aberdeen had benefited from a lot of teams really struggling. Like Hibs have been awful. Hibs got slapped with a dead fish by Hearts of Midlothian yesterday. Sorry, Emilio, I believe you mentioned you were taking up Hibs as your team for a reason. Hibs have been very bad. But last year, they were further down in the table. Before everything started slipping right before Christmas, coming off the World Cup break, Aberdeen were in third place.
Yeah.
Like, things were going fine. But this stretch now has them in a situation where they are putting up a pace that is not matching what you had going into last year. Now, had they won some of these games, it'd be a different story. We'd be having a different conversation. Had they held on to beat Rangers, had they not absolutely, spit the bit against Ross County. Had they not lost to Kilmarnock and their former manager, Derek McGuinness, the other day. There's a lot of, ifs, but, if my mother had 3 wheels, she would be a tricycle.
Correct.
So, if frogs had wings, they wouldn't bump their ass when they jumped.
Check.
A lot of ifs and buts here. The bottom line is, I don't know how much longer Aberdeen keeps going with this, man, because they are slipping down the table fast. I think they're 5th or 6th now.
They are 4th, but they are top. But they're top of the gaggle. Here's
okay. So something went their way yesterday because I think at one point on the live table they were 5th, but something went their way. That's good.
So here's the deal. Aberdeen right now is 4th, and they are +1 in goal difference at 26 points. St. Mirren is also at 26 points. They're unbeaten in their last 5, but they're -4 in goal difference. Livingston has drawn their last 2. They're at 25 points. That's your split. But St. Johnston has lost 3 in a row. They're at 24. Hibs has lost 4 of 5. They're at 23. So you have 5 teams separated by 3 points with the split coming up down the road. Kilmarnock, technically, I'll still count them as a part of it. They're at 20. Motherwell, Dundee United at 19. Ross County is still at the bottom of the table.
It hasn't been good enough. And, it was weird because yesterday he went with a super attacking lineup, which he should have. It's Ross County. You should absolutely do that against Staggies. And they went with a super heavy attacking lineup, and it was weird. It felt like he was grasping at straws. I mean, you're starting Christian Ramirez, who's been out of favor for months at this point, who just comes on for a cameo every now and then. They wheel him out like, you would have wheeled out George Jones in the mid-2000s.
C-Ram don't need no rocking chair.
Oh, man. Christian Ramirez does not actually look like a possum, though, as opposed to George Jones. Seriously, if you've never seen George Jones, he looked like a possum. There's a reason they called him that. It's because he looked like one.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's this thing where it felt like they went for it yesterday, but they were grasping at straws in the way they went about it. Like, we're just going to throw attacking players on, and we're getting it screamed a bit of desperation. And yeah, I don't know what they do. Because it would be very damning. We went over this a couple weeks ago, or a week ago or 2. It'd be very damning to fire a manager in January again and punt another January transfer window. Do you have faith in him enough to make additions this January window to give him what he says he would need for that team to do better? Or does he say, I have what I need, it's just not working right now? I don't know where they sit with this. So our friends across the Atlantic are they're in a bad way right now. They stopped the bleeding with a draw, because a loss to Ross County would have been that one might have been one where you are you are like left on the field without a job kind of thing, because after everything, the split's later in the year, Coco. Splits in April or March, I forget. But yeah, if you had lost that, then you're in a really bad way if that happens. But you stopped the bleeding. Now they need to go start winning games, because, as pointed out, St. Mirren has 2 games in hand over Aberdeen. Boys across the Atlantic are having the time of it.
That is true. This is where you turn into a pumpkin, right?
Yes.
Okay. We'll be back at it tomorrow on a Wall Pass Wednesday, and thanks for the explainers on Old Firm and the SPFL, and how Aberdeen ain't doing better with a different dude in charge who seems to be out of.
And maybe we're getting to a point where they make a different change. I don't know.
But you made a different change and you didn't stick with it.
You did. Now, if you make a different change now, do you go get someone who's very similar to Jim Goodwin, who might be more experienced, because Jim Goodwin isn't that experienced in the grand scheme of things? Who can you get? Who can you pay? Or do you go back to your, experiment with, hey, we want to try and not play terror ball? We'll see. I think they're going to ride out Goodwin for the time being. Of course, I say that. Watch us get a press release in like the next 2 hours that Goodwin's stepping down or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I'm jinxing it into existence at this point. Whatever. Yeah. No, have fun discussing MLS. I'll try and jump back in to discuss MLS if I can.
Okay. All right. We got stuff to talk about in hour number 2. So Jarrett's going to duck out, and he'll duck back in for the time being. As we go,
Emilio, Aberdeen wouldn't know what to do with Frank DeBoer.
Oh yeah, exactly.
They would not know what to do with that. They would be okay on the scoreline side. They'd be okay winning games 1-0. They'd be fine with that. They'd be fine with that. Having the ball that much, they'd be very confused. They would not know They would not know what to do with Frank DeBoer.
No, they would not know what to do with Frank DeBoer. So Jarrett will join us sometime in hour number 2, because we got stuff to talk about. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. Remember, also, I'm looking for your way too early predictions here in hour number 2, and it can be Atlanta United based, or it can be something else other than Atlanta United. We'll go through some of your way too early predictions. Remember, this is the time to put them in pencil, or is it the time to put it in pen? I forget. But this is the time to get in your early predictions. So this way you can sit there and say, well, hey, I said this before the season started, because once the season starts, then people are going to sit there and go, you said it during the season. So we're going to do 2 versions. We'll do one before training camp starts, and we'll do one before the season starts. So we'll do this version now, and then right early, mid-February around AmFam 2, we'll do it again, see if your mind has changed when it comes to your way too early predictions. So it'll be just 2 early predictions in about 6 weeks. So early thoughts on predictions across the board. Can be Atlanta United, can be anything going on in Major League Soccer, can be Golden Boot, can be MVP, can be stuff that's off the wall. That's what we're looking for here today. And probably, and also New Year's resolutions. If you've got those, that's kind of what this week is for, a little bit other than the news that we're going to talk about. So New Year's resolutions, either soccer or personal based. Today, it's way too early predictions. We'll start that. Probably have more on Wall Pass Wednesday. So that's your homework assignment for this show and for the remainder of the week. And since it is halftime, let me go into this particular section of the rundown. And it's always on loop, and it's always up at 50, and I don't want either. Time to read a promo. From our friends at Eliminize Service, odor-free, clean, fresh air. One place you need to go, and it is Eliminize Service. Deodorizing enclosed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos. QR code over my left shoulder for those of you watching on Twitch. Eliminize has created a customized solution that eliminizes all organic odors, including those like pet cigarettes. Realtors and property managers use the Lemonize service to eliminate bad odors to help them sell or rent their homes that much faster. It's a turnkey process. Makes it easy to work with said realtors and property managers. Kind of the environment we like that these days, offering a green way to get rid of odors without any kind of toxic residue whatsoever. Different than Febreze, our favorite masking agent that we have either under the sink or above us in the cupboard, because when we reach under the sink or above us in the cupboard to drag out said masking agent, spray it in the air, there's a reason they call it a masking agent. You're just masking the odor. You're not attacking the issue all the way down to the molecule like our friends at Lemonize do with their proven scientific formula. Pricing very, very easy, either by the cubic foot or parts per million, to come up with a price that's affordable for you. Offering results in 24 hours or less. Do you have any other questions, frequently asked or otherwise? Here's what you do. You go to the website, and this is where I pick up my pen. Lemonize.com is the website, but do us a favor here at SDH. Go /Atlanta after the .com so they know what part of the world that you are talking to them from, so they can help you address your problem. Full homework assignment, ELIMINIZE.com /Atlanta, Lemonize.com /Atlanta. Lemonize Service, proud sponsors of everything SDH here in 2023. And I will swear that all I did was fade the music down, and instead of fade the music up, it's like it faded it up before it faded it back down. So anyway, Lemonize Service, proud sponsors, great friends with us here at SDH. Okay, let's get into your way too early predictions and your thoughts this morning so far in hour number one. KFC still waiting for it to be officially official involving Alan Franco. Looks like a 4-year deal. Atlanta United sells 80% of the pass, keeps 20% for a future sale. Good piece of business for them. Nile, Thiago Almada, MLS MVP. And also with Nile, Atlanta gets a home playoff game. Or if you're Emilio, Atlanta United misses the playoffs entirely. Coco, Seattle wins the West, loses an MLS Cup to Atlanta when we have Nico on later in the week, when we do Thursdays with Nico, maybe on a Friday. We'll ask about that, so we'll see. Coco, the Garth Gonzo Revenge Tour takes off. So I see that you have this in two separate tracks, working the same line of traffic. Niall, Carlos Vela has his worst season ever at LAFC and gets sold in the summer, according to Coco, into obscurity. Obscurity FC, where are they? Niall, Liverpool do not make top four. I hope this is not true, but right now I'm feeling this way. And Niall, you are not the only one because of what we have seen. I mean, and then yesterday losing to Brentford, and great win for Thomas Frank and Brentford. Cannot take, you can't take anything away from that win. Brentford, by the way, with that win yesterday, they get 12 days off. They don't have to worry about anything. They made it through festive fixtures in one piece. They can come back on the 14th, and they've got Brentford. They've got Bournemouth at the G-Tech on the 14th. So we'll keep an eye on that. But Brentford, man, they get 10 days off. They need it. But right now in the standings after yesterday, they're 7th in the table. They've won 3 of 4. Yes, they played 18 matches. Folks around them have matches in hand, and that's probably going to dip a little bit, but still. 18 matches in the barn, 26 points. Great start for Thomas Frank and Brentford here in the Premier League. Coco, way too early prediction in college football. Hey, we'll take those two. Tulane wins the American next year. I mean, when you're Willie Fritz, and you go from 2-10 to 12-2, and you win the Cotton Bowl the way that you did yesterday, I think also it speaks to USC's defense, best team money can buy, or portal, or however you want to phrase it. I think this speaks to USC's defense more than anything. But, when you've got a running back like you have for Willie Fritz, I mean, if Tajay wasn't getting any attention for doing what he was doing at the tail for Tulane, then, I mean, he's been doing fantastic work. Tajay Spears had himself a year. No doubt about it. Yeah, and 12-2, and the only losses were to UCF, Coco. Well done for your Green Wave. Yeah, and Coco, you were right. All the soccer fans last night had a bit of PTSD. Christian Eriksen's, if I remember correctly, it was just an issue. I don't think it was a contact issue, but yeah. I mean, and that was why I mentioned auto racing, because we've seen the coverage, the way it was done in auto racing that way before, with the fatalities on the track. But this was the first time, like I said, since 1971, since anybody in the National Football League has had to address something this dire that we saw on the field last night. KFC refuses to make any predictions on the grounds the football gods may use them against me. Well, that's what I said. That's why it's way too early. We're doing two versions here. So you can do predictions today, but then in 6 weeks, when we're closer to the season, those are the ones you put in pen. These are the ones you put in pencil. So these are predictions in pencil today and this week. So predictions in pencil this week. In 6 weeks, they're in pen. So we'll revisit this in 6 weeks and see if your mind has changed through training camps and things like that. And Ricky, yep, Happy New Year to all of you guys who are wishing us Happy New Year. And thanks. And once again, I can't thank you guys enough for being the part of the show that you are. Being live with us every morning at 9:05, and then this rolls over and is on the network. We start season number 7 of Soccer's Morning Show coming up at the bottom of the month. At the end of the month, we start season number 7 of SDH, and can't thank you guys enough for being a part of things here on the Twitch pitch. And so, like I said, can't thank you guys enough for all of this. Let's see. Rack, how do you know you're still groggy for New Year? You sit a full minute wondering why y'all are on mute, only realize, wait, that's my phone. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's yeah, Rack, that does happen. That does happen. It really does happen. I was trying to play an effect, but of course, what happens when I fade the music down? Then the effect doesn't happen. So let me try that again. Eli Drake's right there with you, Rack. Yeah. So that's definitely where we are. Yeah. So Rack, we're right there with you. And yeah, you feel so bad for everyone on the whole Monday night crew, but they handled it absolute class. Because, like I said, Susie's a mom, and Shefty and Booger with their families. Scott's a dad. Ryan Clark's a dad, and Lisa. All of them handled it. Joe and Troy in the booth. They all handled it tremendously well. And the biggest thing that we got to see last night was the empathy that was attached, and we haven't really seen a whole lot of that. And I think that last night was a reminder that it's okay to be human on camera. And so you hope that that rubs off. It's okay. It's okay to show that you're human. And I think that last night as a part of the discussion, we saw a lot of that. Let's see. And here, Ricky, here's for those of you that are keeping an eye, Damar Hamlin's GoFundMe. So you can do a GoFundMe search with Damar Hamlin. It'll go to the Chasing MS Foundation Community Toy Drive. And let me check the numbers really quickly. Nothing like live radio, right? All right. So right now, just over $3.6 million for the Foundation Community Toy Drive. Initial goal was $2,500. $2,500. And right now, the Chasing M's Foundation Community Toy Drive, just over $3.6 million. That's another thing that we got to see yesterday and today. Compassion. And that was something that really is impressive. I'll admit it. I donated to it last night. The second I found out about it, I donated. So yeah, I donated to the Damar Hamlin Toy Drive too. Donated to it, absolutely. Yeah, cardiac arrest at age 24, but it was just that sudden shock to the cardiac to the cardiac area, and then you go from there. Yeah, we talk about, let's see, yeah, and there's your blunt force, and that was when we got into and yeah, Ricky also, speaking of motorsports, R.I.P. Ken Block, another great force in motorsports who passed away over the weekend. Rack, seriously, should there be anywhere it's played starting no later than high school? And Knicks, knowing at high school football matches, they've got EMTs on site. They probably have AEDs. I think, if I remember correctly, here in the state of Georgia, you're supposed to have, at athletic events, you're supposed to have ambulance / EMT / transportation and AEDs and things like that. You're supposed to have all of those available at the facility for sporting events. So they're there in some form or fashion. Yeah, and Coco, I think you're spot on. AEDs widely available now. I'm sure there's government funding that can help with costs that are associated. Yeah, Coco, Big East vibe, basketball vibes told from Syracuse, Georgetown, that kind of stuff. Right there with you. Then there was the Old Firm discussion. Oh, and Alex, getting into, did you see, Alex, that, and this is a story that came out from our friends at ESPN earlier this morning. Mark Ogden. Cristiano Ronaldo will see out his 2.5-year contract at Al Nassr. Sources at the Saudi Arabian club telling ESPN that reports of a clause allowing Ronaldo to join Newcastle United on loan if they qualify for next season's Champions League are fake. Ronaldo, 38, February 5th, will be officially unveiled at the club's Mosul Park Stadium, 7 p.m. local time on Tuesday. So that's in about 48 minutes. I think it's also about the same time that the service is happening for Pelé in Brazil, but that's just me. Portugal captain, highest paid player, $75 million deal, mutually terminated his Manchester United contract. Report in Spain has claimed that Ronaldo only agreed to play for Al Nassr with a clause inserted into his contract that would enable him to leave for Newcastle, whose majority owners are the Saudi Arabian PIF. The report also claimed incorrectly that Al Nassr are also owned by the PIF. Sources at Newcastle dismissed the suggestion, saying the club has an option to sign Ronaldo if they qualify for Champions League. Well, a source at Al Nassr told ESPN the story is all fake. Al Nassr are due to play Al Tai at home on Thursday. Sources said Ronaldo's debut is most likely to be in the away game against Riyadh rival Al Shabaab, January 14th. And I think that if the standings are correct, I think that that's number 1 versus number 2. Let's see. Yeah, Coco, getting into the rivalry thing. Georgia Southern walks that line of eternal hate for App State and genuine dislike for App people. You can hate the college without hating the people. That's true. Same with me, with my school in Tallahassee and the folks in Gainesville and the folks in Coral Gables. Yeah, I know folks from both schools, but yeah, absolutely despise the University of Florida and the University of Coral Gables. Absolutely do. There's a reason I call it the University of South Georgia Gainesville campus and the University of Coral Gables. I don't even identify them by their own name. But yeah, so there you go. Coco, Aberdeen doesn't deserve to be at the top of the gaggle. They played like they're fighting relegation. Actually, they've been playing scared. Playing scared. If you're scared, get a dog. That's our 2023 T-shirt. I know that's going to come out of the blocks. Coco, Big Sam seems like Pep compared to what Aberdeen have been doing. You're not wrong. Not wrong. And yeah, Nick's pointing out St. Mirren with matches in hand. Coco, I don't think Tata. If Tata goes anywhere, I think he goes home. I think he'll go back to Argentina, where he can have them all back, hang out with his family, do those kinds of things. I think that that's where he is right now. I think if he goes back into coaching, it's back home to do a gig back in the LPF. That's what I'm thinking. I don't know. Next, I don't know. You wonder when and where FDB will end up. He'll coach again somewhere. Yeah, I'm sure someone will probably tap him on the shoulder. Maybe he'll be an advanced scout. Maybe he'll just do some of that work. Seems to be happy at the moment, doing his guest spots on crime dramas and things like that. But yeah, I would anticipate in the right situation coming along that FDB would be back. Nick's, if I had any idea what Atlanta United was going to look like next year, I might feel more comfortable making a prediction. But alas, Nick says, I don't even know where I'm tailgating this year, consarn it. That was very Yosemite Sam of you. Let me see. Wanting to know about Alan Franco, I forget. Let me see what the Alan Franco deal was. But still, but remember, what you make is you're looking at. Let's see, not that Alan Franco. Let's see. I'm trying to find the right element here. But remember, what you get back in 80% of the pass, you still have 20% for future purchases of Alan Franco. If Alan Franco moves on from Sao Paulo, let's see. This is, like I said, I don't know what. I don't know this one particular website. Definitive purchase values for hiring the defender remain confidential, but as it was found, they would have been close to $2.5 million, something around Brazil. Cruzeiro, 13 million at the current exchange rate. Market value of the player and what Atlanta wants to receive for the economic rights. Prominent passage of South American football. Franco arrives to reinforce the defense of Sao Paulo. So it looks like, and like I said, this is one report, and if it's somewhere in that number, then, once again, let's just say it's 2.5. If it's 2.5, if that's the number that we're going to go for, then it's 2.5 plus 20%. If he's sold on in the future from Sao Paulo, it's that number plus. So this is a smart piece of business for Atlanta United because you're still hanging on to a percentage of the pass. Most of the pass has been forwarded on to Sao Paulo. Still waiting for the official announcement. And so it's money plus. And so you're getting plus down the line if Alan Franco has moved on. So it's a good piece of business. Yes, the bees are, in fact, buzzing at Brentford. Say that 10 times fast. Brentford bees buzzing. And, yeah, Coco, 12-2 for Tulane. Losses only to UCF. David, Leagues Cup flame out for United, playoffs at a 5-6 U.S. Open Cup championship. Okay. Alex, do not let John lead you down this road. The football gods do not differentiate. We still not pencil or pen to them. It's always in blood. Okay. Kind of like what we saw with Sheila and Bill on Bold and the Beautiful the other day. Yeah. Okay. I see you working. Kefsey, not going to happen for Atlanta United. How about Roma will finish in Europa League again for way too early pencil? There you go. And KFC says Everton fire Lampard. Let's see. Coco. Let's see. Okay. So you guys are going down. You guys are going down a road. Always here to back you up on the false Ronaldo rumors. Okay. Excellent. And so going to miss lot 17, but everybody knows where they are going to be tailgating in Chattanooga up at Finley Stadium. And, man, that's only 25 days away. Does that sound about right? But it'll be good to see everybody up there for tailgating. Do we have to pay the team we got Franco from? That I don't think we do. I think that was the straight up purchase. So I think that this is free and clear, if I remember correctly, Emilio. So I think it's free and clear. Everything's pushing forward. Okay, news around the planet, and since I got the CR7 story out of the way, MLS on Pluto TV went away. And that's just another element of, obviously, the deal with Apple TV is that you're consolidating all of your viewing choices. And so if you watch the MLS channel on Pluto TV, it is now officially kaput. Once again, remember, all week, give me your resolutions, give me your predictions. And once again, I'll differentiate pencil and pen. So you can do pencil. Like I said, you can do pencil. You can do pencil all you want. Pencil all you want until we get to AmFam 2. And then we'll get into pen. All right. That's what we'll do this morning and for the rest of this week. Let's see. MLS transactions. There were a couple yesterday. Tommy Scoops had a couple. We talked about Ashley Westwood being signed by Charlotte FC to give them another 30-something at the back, but he's not as old 30-something as Christian Fuchs was, so we'll see what happens. Ashley Westwood in the midfield for Charlotte FC. LAFC signed rising Croat forward Steve Buke from Hajduk Split, the 20-year-old Croat youth international, a 4-year deal through 2026, club option for 27. U22 initiative player occupying an international roster spot. So John Thorrington, pleased about that. 6 goals, 8 assists, 66 all comps for Hajduk Split. They won the Croat Football Cup in 21-22, debuted for them in 2020 at the age of 17, named to UEFA.com's 2022 40 for the Future list of the most talented players under the age of 21 in Europe. Also selected among the finalists for the 2022 Golden Boy Award, annual award that crowns Europe's best young player of the year and was won by Gavi in the past. So you've got Buke, Vela, Buanga, Bale, and Kwajo Opoku. So that's what you're looking at with the attack with LAFC. George Campbell signed a multi-year extension. Go get that money, George Campbell. Good for you. Well done by George Campbell. Aaron Long, it looks like, is being courted by a couple of different teams. It is being mentioned that the two MLS sides are Inter Miami and Seattle. Obviously, if this continues with Aaron Long, we'll keep an eye on Aaron Long and see what he thinks about that. I think that, frankly, with Aaron Long, you're looking at a high price point. It's got to be the right system. And also with Aaron Long, you still have the injury recovery that's there. So to me, it's a couple of different things that are adding up for folks, and they're looking to take a bit of a leap with Aaron Long. Houston Dynamo finalizing a deal for Brad Smith. He was at DC last year, suffered a torn ACL in July after 14 starts. He was with Seattle, winning MLS Cup 2019, 79 MLS appearances, 3 goals, 12 assists. He was with Liverpool and Bournemouth, 23 caps for the Australian national team. Another addition for Houston as Ben Olsen gets to turn everything over. Quintero, Parker, Pico, Zika, Memo Rodriguez have departed. Artur acquired in a trade with Crew. Deals being finalized to sign Paraguay international winger Ivan Franco from Libertad, led by Seb Ferreira and Ache Hector Herrera. Herrera, as they're chasing after a playoff spot. Ashley Westwood comes from Burnley, 286 EPL appearances with Burnley and Villa. 26 starts this year before suffering last year before a fractured ankle in April. Hasn't featured in a competitive game since Burnley got relegated, but has returned to training. Defensive midfielder gives Christian Latanzio, according to Tom Bogert, another option at a light position alongside Derek Jones. Jones excelled down the stretch when Latanzio, then in an interim role, put him in the starting lineup. Soon, Charlotte looks like they're going to add Enzo Copetti from Racing Club in Argentina. And then center forward headlines club's additions with Westwood and Hamadi Diop, the other key signings. The Chicago Fire finalizing the signing of right back Arnaud Soquet from Montpellier. Agreement is on a contract through 2025. 148 appearances in the top flight with Montpellier, Nice, and Lille. 5 goals, 11 assists. Defender fills a need at right back after Jean Espinoza went to Lugano, and the club moved on from Boris Sekulic. Ezra Hendrickson's second year. Soquet would be their second international signing after they brought in Marin Haile Selassie on loan from Lugano. And remember, Joe Mansueto owns both Lugano and the Chicago Fire. Open up a DP spot by re-signing Gaston Jimenez to a new deal, creating room alongside Big Shaq and Jairo Torres. And Hendrickson says they're pursuing a DP number 9 to join that duo. Vancouver finalizing a deal for an Uruguayan center back, Matias Laborda, on a free. Spent his entire career at the age of 23, spent his entire career with Uruguayan powerhouse Nacional, but he's out of contract. Whitecaps reached an agreement with Laborda amid interest from other clubs, including San Lorenzo in Argentina. 3 league titles with Nacional, made more than 100 appearances with the club. Center back depth for Vanni Sartini has Laborda, Karifa Yao, Ranko Veselinovic and Tristan Blackman. Midseason signings, Andres Cubas, Alessandro Schopp get a full preseason. Daber Caicedo returns from a knee injury that cut his 2022 season short. So that's your quick tour of everything going on in Major League Soccer with who, what, where, why, and how. And getting into gossip, rumor, and innuendo with everything going on there. And once again, great that you guys are having conversations about Chattanooga. So like I said, we're heading up and probably be doing the show from there the following morning and get your thoughts on what you heard from what you heard and what you saw from the trip to Finley Stadium. So that'll be a fun one coming up later on in the month. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo before we get into juice boxes and viewings. Okay, so in addition to ESPN, Marca is also saying that clause exists about Cristiano Ronaldo and Newcastle. France center back Benoit Badiashile is in London to undergo a medical after Chelsea agreed to a deal, 38 million euro, 33.6 million pounds with Monaco. Liverpool exploring a deal to buy Mateus Nunes from Wolves in the summer. That's according to the Telegraph. The new national intrigue around Jude Bellingham sent to meet with Borussia Dortmund officials before January 6th, basically by the end of this week. When he'll inform them of his desire to leave this summer, the German club will seek 100 million euro plus add-ons that could take the total fee to about 140 million euro or 125-ish million pounds. Arsenal, Manchester United, Chelsea have been approached about signing Portugal forward João Felix on loan, but are seeking a 15 million euro loan fee plus 6 million to cover the wages. Still, they're looking for something close to $21 million, and they want you to pay for it. You want Joao Felix that bad? Give us 21 million. Give us 21 million pounds, and we're cool. And yeah, Alex, Chelsea's just going bananas, and River's going to get. Yeah, I mean, think about what Enzo is bringing to multiple tables here. I mean, he goes from a low 8-figure signing to a 9-figure signing. Great business for River to get, hey, 28 million euro on that deal when it goes through with that number. Good business for River, good business for Enzo, and fantastic business for every club that's in line with that particular deal, and that does become final with Benfica. Club record deal. It would be a club record deal with Enzo Fernandez going from Benfica to Chelsea. Arsenal have submitted a second offer for Mikhailo Mudryk, significantly below Shakhtar Donetsk asking price of 100 million euro. Look for something around 60 with technical director, sporting director Dario Serna. Yeah, he did put the 100 million number on the table, but if it's 60 cash, he'll take that. Remember, we keep mentioning the meetings that they're having with the Court of Arbitration for Sport for trying to recoup lost potential sale wages of 40 million pounds. So we'll keep an eye on that too. Manchester United, Bayern Munich interested in Randall Colomwani, but Eintracht Frankfurt wants 60 to 70 million euro, 53 to 62 million pounds for the France forward. Manchester City set to win the race to sign Argentine midfielder Maximo Perrone, who's 19 from Vélez Sarsfield. That's going to be, I think I remember seeing that was going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 8 million pounds. Newcastle continuing talks with Flamengo over the signing of 18-year-old Brazilian midfielder Mateus Franca. Liverpool interested in signing 2 central midfielders between now and the end of the 23 summer transfer window from Fabrizio Romano. Manchester United want to keep Harry Maguire and Scott McTominay in January to maintain strength and depth for the squad. That's from the 4-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. Brighton boss Roberto De Zerbi hopes that Alexis stays with the club at least until the end of the season. That's from the Argus newspaper. But once again, if you get the offer that you can't refuse, it's still going to be a great piece of business, but it's going to be what you do when you reinvest that great piece of business. Once again, for Brighton, it would be the fourth really good turn of an investment in a row. You're going to keep that streak going. You've got to keep that streak going. But Alexis, it would be a definite, a definite massive transaction for Brighton. But then the pressure to get someone else that can fill that bill, that once again you can continue to get a poly turn on your investment, if that's a phrase. But yeah, Alexis, if you get the offer that you can't refuse, Brighton would be silly not to take that offer. So please hold. Talking for 30 minutes. You got to grab some liquid. Arsenal activated clauses to extend the contracts of Bukayo Saka and William Saliba, both 21, by an extra year, as talks continue over long-term agreements. Forest willing to let Emmanuel Dennis leave the club just 5 months after joining from Watford in a deal for £10 million. N'Golo Kante has had interest from Barcelona and El Nasser, but the 31-year-old could now sign a new contract with Chelsea. That's from Fabrizio Romano. Juve and Borussia Dortmund have joined the race to sign 18-year-old Spanish right-back Ivan Fresneda after Newcastle made first contact with his club Real Valladolid. And Memphis will leave Barcelona on a free in the summer rather than seek a January move. Going into the paper talk from our friends at Sky, let's see what is on their mind this morning. And provided we can find the paper talk, and there we go. Leeds also confirmed signing Ben Vober from RB Leipzig. I want to say it was 11 million pounds, avoiding the 3 and the 4 letter paper as we always do when it comes to information. Daily Telegraph adding more information on the Mateus Nunes possible signing for Liverpool from Wolves. Portugal International was close to signing for Liverpool, but the transfer didn't go through last summer, so they're trying it again. Manchester United looking at alternatives to Joao Felix, with Atletico Madrid demanding at least double what the club are prepared to pay. Arsenal have stepped up their pursuit, offering the improved offer for Mykhailo Mudryk. That comes from the Times, avoiding the 4-letter paper. Daily Mirror, Saudi Arabian club Al Hilal have reportedly placed Lionel Messi shirts on sale in the club shop after Cristiano Ronaldo joined their rivals Al Nassr. That's cool. A section of Celtics supporters booed a minute's silence in remembrance of the Ibrox disaster victims for the Old Firm against Rangers. Should have talked to Jared about that. Kylian Mbappe and Achraf Hakimi have both been handed a few days off after PSG's shock loss to Lens. Mbappe was at the Brooklyn Nets game last night, if I remember correctly. Manchester United manager Eric Ten Hag hinted Amad Diallo could see out his loan spell at Sunderland. Michael Beale, according to The Athletic, says he's not looking for any short-term signings in January as he looks to add quality over quantity to his Rangers squad. The Guardian says Romelu Lukaku said he wants to put his recent troubles behind him and secure a permanent move to Inter from Chelsea. 53 million pounds for Randall Colomwani, according to the Daily Express, where Manchester United's concerned. Arsenal have reportedly been following the progress of Montpellier striker Eli Wahi. We'll keep an eye on that one. And Scottish Sun Hearts Craig Halkett fearing he'll be out until next season with a suspected cruciate ligament injury. Hearts they've been climbing the table, and it was. So we'll see where Hearts can go from there. It looks like the offer for Mudryk is £62 million. And we'll keep an eye on that. See if that will be enough for Shakhtar Donetsk as they work their way forward. Brentford closing in on their first January signing. Freiburg forward Kevin Schad. Deal's been agreed with the clubs on an initial loan until the end of the year. Obligation to buy if certain performance-related add-ons are met. Committed to spending a fee in the region of £20 million to sign him. The German U21 flying into London to undergo a medical. He's been a long-term target for Brentford, apparently. Sky reported their interest in him as far back as last July. Antonio Conte insists he's happy at Spurs, and he had his midweek presser. Says, I'm happy, but I always say to you, I'm happy. I want to stay here. I'm enjoying my time in Tottenham. I'm enjoying my work in Tottenham, but it doesn't mean I cannot tell you what we're doing. We're trying to create a base foundation. It's difficult for me every day to repeat the same thing and for you not to understand. I'm happy to stay here because I'm at a modern club. I have a good relationship with the players and have a good relationship with the club. Sometimes I go home and I think I have to study much more English because I'm not good to transfer my thoughts to you. No, I think that you're solid, dude. It's all good. Kilmarnock confirmed the departure of forward Deji Satona, former Manchester United youth player, signed on loan from Nice in August, made only 2 substitute appearances in the first team. Also on the board, let's see. David Moyes asked about Declan Rice's future at West Ham and his post-World Cup form after taking part in the 2-0 loss, 2-0 home defeat to Bournemouth. Rice was denied an early opener, struck the post, linked with a move to Liverpool in the morning papers. And so David Moyes is saying he's not leaving. Gianluca Scamacca has scored 6 goals in 22 appearances since his £35.5 million move from Sassuolo last summer. And 10 matches without scoring. David Moyes admits he needs to find a route to getting the best out of him. Folks are wondering if Unai Emery is going to get any business done with Aston Villa. West Ham's David Moyes underlined the show of support from club co-owners David Sullivan and David Gold, saying that the board have been right behind me, which is really good. They've been very supportive and backing me. Patrick Vieira is hoping to add players in the January window, believes the right players could take the club to the next level. Gustavo Scarpa, new signing for Forest. Of course, I could also say that every signing is a new signing for Forest. Available following the opening of the transfer window, Jesse Lingard has been ruled out for 4 weeks with a hamstring injury. Club have also confirmed the cancellation of Loic Bade's loan move from Rennes. One of the 23 signings from Forest didn't play a game, returns to the French club ahead of a proposed move to Sevilla. Przemysław Plaqueta returns to Norwich on the championship side after Birmingham City canceled the loan. 5 starts for the Blues, scoring once. And question on the board, should Liverpool sign Amrabat, Sofiane Amrabat? He's out there as well. So we'll look at that and see where we go. Soccer on the TV today. And we got matches. We also, Nick, the Conte response after the match was, that was something. That's one way to phrase it. Definitely was something. Soccer on the tube today. At noon, Turkish Super League Antalyaspor Fenerbahce is on BN, as well as BN and Espanyol. Arsenal Newcastle at 2:45 is on USA and Universo. Copa del Rey starts at 1 o'clock with 7 matches at 1 and at 3 on ESPN Plus. You have Espanyol Celta de Vigo, Cartagena, Villarreal at 1 o'clock, along with La Nucia, Valencia. 3 o'clock, Sporting Gijon, Rayo Vallecano, Levante Getafe, Ceuta and Elche. And my personal favorite, Club Polideportivo Cacereño and Real Madrid. That's at 3 o'clock. We'll get into the juice boxes in just a sec. Peacock has your other 3 matches on the table that are not on USA or Universo. Everton, Brighton, Leicester City, Fulham, and Manchester United and Bournemouth. And so that's your viewing habits for today. Let's get into juice boxes and let you see what's going on there. Yeah, Nick, hopefully Leicester can bounce back from their post-World Cup suckage today against Fulham. Yeah, I know. It's going to be a tall order, my friend. And keep an eye on Yuri Tielemans and his future for your Foxes. Right now, obviously, stuff going on. The Copa Sao Paulo de Juniores is going on in Brazil. You've got Eastern Europe. You've got Middle East going on right now in a lot of lower divisions. Let's see. South Africa's earlier this afternoon. Greece in the Super League. Egypt in the Super League. State Cups are going on. Your 245s in the Premier League. Arsenal's a -127 hosting Newcastle. That's probably your early match window of the day game. Arsenal draws a +284. Newcastle's a +366. Everton is a home dog to Brighton and Hove Albion. Brighton is a +114 at Everton. Your draw is a +250. Everton's a +257. Leicester at home is a favorite at King Power, +147 in the composite, courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal. Your draw is a +254, and Fulham is a +187. I'm sure if you're a Leicester fan, you want Alexander Mitrovic to just go ahead and kick all of the penalties. Let's see. Lower divisions in England, 3 o'clock, Manchester United is a -385 at home. Bournemouth north of +1100. Your draws a +540. Copa del Rey, and obviously the Copa del Sao Paulo de Juniores is going to take up a lot of the action in Brazil later today. But your 4 matches at 3 o'clock in the Copa del Rey. Levante favored against Getafe. Rayo Vallecano favored on the road against Gijon. Elche is a -130 on the road at Ceuta. And Real Madrid's a -1,000 on the road at Cacereño. who is a plus 2132 in the composite, and that gets us through all of our juice boxes on the day. Yeah, how do you score all 3 goals in a match and lose? Yeah, I mean, that's the way the season has been this year when it comes to Leicester. Let me go and just to get ready for the matches. Let's take a peek at beginning of festive fixtures 3 and see where things are. We're getting those 3 groups that we're used to seeing. You've got Arsenal 7-up on Manchester City. Newcastle will be playing their 18th match of the year today. They're 2 points behind Manchester City. With a win, Newcastle could be above Manchester City in second, but once again, Manchester City would have 2 matches in hand. Manchester United's only played 16 matches. They're at 32 points. Spurs at 30, Liverpool's at 28, Brentford 18 matches played, 26. Fulham at 25, Chelsea at 25, behind on goals scored, and they've played 1 less match. Brighton's at 24. They've lost 2 of 3. Crystal Palace snapped a 2-game losing streak. They're at 22 points. Villa's at 21. They've won 3 of 4. Leicester lost 2 in a row after the horrendous start, then the comeback. Now they've lost 2 in a row. They're at 17 points. You're in 13th place, Knicks. Leeds snapped a 2-game losing streak with that really a condition the downpour, the draw and the downpour against Newcastle. 16 points ahead of Bournemouth on goal difference. Bournemouth has lost 4 of 5. Everton's at 15 points. West Ham's at 14 points. They've lost 5 in a row. Nottingham Forest is at 14 points behind on goal difference. Wolves is at 13 points, losing 3 of 4. Julian Lopetegui, 1 win, 1 loss in his 2 matches. Southampton looks like they're in a world of trouble, and it looks like Che Adams might be a sought-after commodity from Southampton. And if Southampton loses both Che Adams and James Ward-Prowse in the January window with offers too good to refuse, Southampton's probably going down. 3 wins, 11 losses, and 17 matches are at 12 points. You got your 4 matches today at 2:45 and at 3 o'clock. Yeah, 2 of the worst own goals I've seen in a while. And at that point, I don't know if I would have kept Wout on the pitch. It's just like, dude, you've had a day. We're going to swap you out. We're just going to go to the bullpen. And it's like, nope, you're done. Rethink it, and we'll do it again tomorrow. One other story that I wanted to kind of let you guys keep an ear out for, and it comes out of Ligue 1. And I wanted to kind of, when we talk about financing a lot, and we all, we figure out, okay, the way things are with clubs these days and how some of them are kind of right there on the edge of having their houses of cards fall. From Jonathan Johnson, John_LaGossip on Twitter. Must follow for those that, if you want to follow the European game. Angers club offices have been raided as a part of an ongoing investigation into agent-related illegalities. And this comes from West France, and I'm going to accept. So the headquarters was raided on Tuesday by the judicial police. On the spot, the communications director of Angers confirmed it. And so it's a new search for the leaders of Angers, the headquarters, subject of a search by the judicial police. The public prosecutor's office opened an investigation for acts of illegal exercise when it comes to transfers of players. And so we'll keep an eye on that when it comes to another club that could be in trouble for not doing things the right way. And we mentioned the standings, and right now you look at where things are, and Angers, and this is the other part of this rub. Angers is dead last in Ligue 1. And they're having problems when it comes to relationships with allegedly, when you get your offices raided for allegedly not being on the up and up when it comes to dealing with agents, and you're still dead last in Ligue 1, you're trying to find a way to stay up, I guess. Angers, in their 17 matches, they're the only team in Ligue 1 that is not in double digits with points. 2 wins, 2 draws, 13 losses in 17 matches. Everybody's through match week 17. And Angers, 2-2-13, scored less than a goal a game, and they've given up more than 2 a game. They've lost 5 in a row. They've lost their last 5, and they are 7 points adrift from relegation. They are dead last in Ligue 1, and they got rated. So we'll keep an eye on that as we go forward. So that is all the news that's fit to print today. And when we come back tomorrow, once again, for this week, because we're heading toward training camp, and I'm going to say it, and you can blame me if you want when it comes to football gods and things like that. This week, it is way too early predictions in pencil. I'll call it at AmFam 2. That's when you've got to have your too early predictions or your early predictions in pen. So this week, we will continue our underlying themes of way too early predictions and New Year's resolutions to go with all of the news of the day. And thank you once again for the road that we went down in hour number 1, having to do with media coverage and difficult events with what happened with Damar Hamlin last night. Thank you for indulging us here on that particular topic, but it's not really it's a topic that transcends just the title of the show. And thank you for letting us go into that this morning. And we will obviously keep an eye on how things continue to grow and evolve for that. Yes, no doubt about it, Nix. We cannot lose the prestigious AmFam Cup trophy. We cannot. We have to be the defending champ there for AmFam 2 on February 15th. So the perfect gift for Valentine's Day, AmFam 2 tickets, or showing up and being a part of AmFam 2. But, we'll be back at it again tomorrow, 9:05, Wall Pass Wednesday. Anything's on the table. Usually is anyway. Should be the return of Dylan Butler for the first time in 2023. We'll get his talk on everything that's going on. We'll get his way too early predictions. We'll get his New Year's resolutions, those kinds of things. So we'll do all of that tomorrow as well. And we'll do it on the Wall Pass Wednesday. Once again, anything's on the table, anything that's on your mind that can transcend the sport that we talk about on a daily basis. It's on the table on a Wall Pass Wednesday. So thanks to all of you guys for hanging out with us today. Thanks to all of you guys for hanging out with us as long as you have. And we'll continue to do it again tomorrow. So mucha plata, y'all. And play it safe, everybody. We'll see you next time. Tonight, it's supposed to be pretty nasty if you're here in the Atlanta footprint. So just be safe, be warm, stay cool. And we'll be back at it again tomorrow. So for everybody here at SDH, for Jason, for Jarrett, for Nick, I'm just John. Play it safe, everybody. We will see you tomorrow on another go-round of SDH. It's the end of the show. That means I get to do this. We'll see you on a Wall Pass Wednesday.